The lawyer slid the divorce papers across his mahogany desk, and I watched my husband of 47 years sign his name without hesitation. Robert didn't even glance at me. His hand was steady and confident, as if he had been rehearsing this moment in his mind for months. Perhaps he had. "You're holding me back, Claire," he had told me 3 weeks earlier, standing in our kitchen with his suitcase already packed. I deserve to feel alive again. I am Claire Patterson, and I am 72 years old. For 47 years, I believed in forever. I raised 3 children, supported my husband through 2 failed businesses and a bankruptcy, and turned our house into a home that friends referred to as a sanctuary. Then, on a Tuesday morning in April, he walked out to move in with Amber, a 39-year-old yoga instructor he had met at the community center. Before I explain what happened next, I want to know where you're watching this from. Please drop your city and state in the comments. I've learned that women like us are everywhere, and our stories matter more than anyone wants to admit. Robert and I met in 1976 at a county fair in Vermont. I was 25 teaching elementary school, and he was 28, working construction with dreams of starting his own company. He had a laugh that made everyone around him smile. When he asked me to dance, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. We married 6 months later in a small chapel surrounded by wildflowers and 20 guests. My mother pulled me aside before the ceremony and whispered, "Marriage is work, Claire. Some days you'll have to love him on purpose." I nodded, believing I understood. I had no idea how prophetic those words would turn out to be. The first 20 years were good. We had Sarah in 1978, then the twins, Michael and Jennifer, in 1982. Robert's construction company grew slowly but steadily. We bought a beautiful old Victorian house on the outskirts of Burlington that needed extensive work. Robert promised we would renovate it together and make it our forever home. Life, however, happened as it often does. The kids needed braces and college funds. Robert's company faced challenges during the recession. His first business partner embezzled money, and we nearly lost everything in 2009. I returned to teaching full-time to keep us afloat. The house renovations were postponed year after year. "We'll do it when things settle down," Robert would say, and I believed him. By the time we retired, me at 68 and him at 70, our children had their own lives across the country. Sarah was a doctor in Seattle, Michael was an engineer in Texas, and Jennifer was a lawyer in North Carolina. They visited for holidays and called on Sundays, but our daily life became just the two of us in that beautiful, crumbling Victorian. I suggested we finally tackle the renovations, but Robert said he was too tired, claiming he had spent his whole life working on other people's houses and couldn't face working on his own. So we lived with an outdated kitchen, drafty windows, and a bathroom that hadn't been updated since 1985. Last year, Robert began attending fitness classes at the community center. He lost 20 pounds, bought new clothes, and started using cologne again. I thought he was finally taking care of himself, and I encouraged it. How naive I was. The signs were glaring, but I explained them away as I had been trained to do for nearly 5 decades. When Robert started coming home later from his classes, I told myself he had made friends. When he password protected his phone for the first time in our marriage, I convinced myself he was protecting our banking information. When he stopped reaching for my hand during our evening walks, I blamed it on arthritis. Denial is a powerful drug, and I had been taking it in heavy doses. The truth arrived on a cold March morning when our neighbor Patricia knocked on my door. She stood on the porch, wringing her hands, clearly uncomfortable, and asked if we could talk inside. Over coffee at my kitchen table, she told me she had seen Robert at a restaurant 2 towns over, holding hands with a much younger woman across an intimate corner table. "I'm so sorry, Claire," Patricia said, tears in her eyes. "I debated telling you, but if it were me, I'd want to know." I thanked her calmly, walked her to the door, and then stood in my hallway for 20 minutes, trying to remember how to breathe. The woman I saw in the mirror that morning, with silver hair, laugh lines, and comfortable in her own skin, suddenly felt like a stranger. Who was I if not Robert's wife? I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I did what any modern woman would do. I checked the cell phone bill online. There was one number he had called or texted over 300 times in the past month. I reverse searched it. Amber Mitchell, age 39, yoga instructor and wellness coach. Her extensive social media presence showed a woman with long blonde hair, perfect teeth, and an array of impossible yoga poses on beaches and mountaintops. Her bio claimed she believed in living authentically and embracing transformation. I sat at my computer for hours, scrolling through her life and comparing it to mine. She had inspirational quotes overlaid on sunset photos. I had recipes clipped from newspapers and family photos in actual albums. When Robert came home that evening, I was sitting in the living room with the lights off. "We need to talk," I said. I'll never forget the look on his face. Not guilt, not shame, but relief. He had been waiting for this conversation, perhaps even hoping for it. He sat down across from me and didn't even attempt to deny it. "Her name is Amber," he said as if I had asked. "I met her 4 months ago. Claire, I haven't felt this alive in decades." 47 years, I said quietly. "We've been married for 47 years. Exactly." He leaned forward, and I could see he genuinely believed what he was about to say. "Claire, we got married so young. We've spent our entire adult lives being parents, being responsible, being old. Amber makes me feel young again. She sees me as I really am, not as some retired old man waiting to die." "I'm 72 years old," I told him. "What do you think you are?" He flinched, and I saw anger flash across his face. "That's exactly the problem," Robert said, standing up abruptly. "You've accepted being old. You've given up. Every conversation is about doctor's appointments and what the kids are doing and when we should replace the water heater. When did you stop wanting more from life?" I stood up too, my hands shaking. I wanted to renovate this house. I wanted to travel. I suggested Italy last year, and you said we couldn't afford it. I asked you to take dancing lessons with me, and you said your knees hurt. Don't you dare act like I'm the one who stopped living. "Because all of those things felt like obligations," he replied, his voice rising for the first time. "Amber doesn't need anything from me. She just wants to enjoy life. We go hiking, we try new restaurants, we talk about philosophy and meaning. When was the last time we talked about anything meaningful? Claire, we talk every day about nothing, about routine, about getting old together like it's something to celebrate." He ran his hand through his silver hair I used to cut for him in our bathroom. "I don't want to just wait around to die. I want to feel alive while I still can. So this is my fault." I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall. "I made you feel old by being old." "You're not listening." He grabbed his jacket from the chair. "I'm not doing this tonight. I need space to think." He didn't come home that night or the next. On the third day, Sarah called me crying. Robert had called her to explain the situation and asked her to check on me. Our daughter, 3,000 miles away, was trying to manage her father's midlife crisis, or more accurately, his late life crisis, over FaceTime. "Mom, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "Do you want me to fly out?" "No, honey, stay with your family. I'm fine." I wasn't fine, but what mother wants her daughter to see her like this? The twins called next, both furious with their father. Michael threatened to fly out and knock some sense into him, while Jennifer started researching divorce lawyers. My children were ready to go to war for me, but I could hear the confusion in their voices. Their stable, boring parents were supposed to be the one constant in an unstable world. Robert returned on a Thursday afternoon to pack his things. He moved through our house like a ghost, filling suitcases with clothes, toiletries, and the leather jacket I had given him for his 60th birthday. I watched from the kitchen doorway, silent. "I'm staying with Amber," he finally said, not meeting my eyes, "just temporarily until I figure things out." Figure what out exactly? What I want. Who I am without all these expectations weighing me down. He zipped up the last suitcase. "Claire, you've been an amazing wife and mother, but I need to know what it feels like to just be Robert again. Not someone's husband or someone's father, just me." "You're 72 years old," I repeated. "How long do you think Amber will want just Robert when reality sets in?" Robert's jaw tightened. "She's not like that. Amber sees beyond age. She practices mindfulness and acceptance. She believes people can change at any stage of life." "She's 39 years old," I said flatly. She doesn't know what 72 means yet. Wait until you need help getting up from her floor after one of those yoga sessions. Wait until your medications start piling up on her bathroom counter. Stop. He held up his hand. This is exactly why I need to leave. You've already written the ending. You see me as old and declining and ready for the nursing home. Amber sees possibility. I see reality, Robert. I see 47 years of partnership that you're throwing away because some young woman makes you feel special. My voice cracked despite my best efforts. I made you feel special once too. Or did you forget? For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or regret. But then he picked up his suitcases and walked toward the door. I'm sorry, Claire. I really am. But I can't stay in this life anymore. It's suffocating me. The door closed behind him, and I stood in the sudden silence of our house. Not our house anymore. My house. The Victorian we had bought with such hope and plans now felt enormous and empty, each room echoing with memories of a life I had thought was solid. I didn't cry that first day. Instead, I walked through every room, as if I were seeing it for the first time. The living room, where we had taught our children to walk. The kitchen, where I had made thousands of meals. The bedroom, where we had shared 47 years of nights. The bathroom with the avocado green fixtures from 1985 that we had never gotten around to replacing. That's when something unexpected happened. Standing in that outdated bathroom, I didn't see a monument to our failures. I saw potential. I saw what the house could be. The next morning, I called our daughter Jennifer, the lawyer. I need you to recommend the best divorce attorney you know, I told her. And I need someone who specializes in property division. Mom, are you sure? Jennifer's voice was cautious. Maybe Dad just needs time to... Your father made his choice. Now I'm making mine. I hired Marcus Chen, a divorce attorney known for protecting his clients' interests without mercy. During our first meeting in his downtown office, he reviewed our financial situation with his reading glasses perched on his nose. You've been married for 47 years, he said. In Vermont, that means you're entitled to half of everything. His pension, his social security, the house, savings, all of it. But given that the house is your primary asset and he's chosen to leave, we can push for you to keep it entirely in exchange for a smaller share of his retirement accounts. I want the house, I said immediately. Marcus nodded. Then let's make that happen. Does he know what the house might be worth? I shook my head. We bought it for $75,000 in 1988. It needs so much work that I doubt he's thought about its value in years. Marcus smiled slightly. Has anyone done a current appraisal? No. Why would we? It's falling apart. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Mrs. Patterson, Victorian homes in Vermont, particularly in established neighborhoods near Burlington, have become increasingly valuable. Even in disrepair, depending on the lot size and location, you might be sitting on something significant. Before we proceed with the divorce negotiations, I strongly suggest getting a professional appraisal. 3 days later, a real estate appraiser named Thomas walked through my house with a tablet and measuring tape. He photographed every room, examined the foundation, and checked the original woodwork and architectural details I had stopped noticing decades ago. Mrs. Patterson, he said as he finished his inspection, do you realize what you have here? An outdated house that needs hundreds of thousands in repairs? Thomas laughed. You have a 3,200 square foot Victorian in original condition on a half-acre lot in one of Vermont's most desirable areas. The bones are excellent. Original hardwood floors, 10-foot ceilings, those built-in bookcases and window seats. Yes, it needs updating, but that's cosmetic. The structure is sound. He sent his appraisal 3 days later. In its current condition, the house was worth $425,000. Fully renovated to modern standards while preserving its historic character, it could sell for between $950,000 and $1.2 million. I read those numbers 5 times, sitting alone at my kitchen table. That's when the plan began to form. Robert had made it clear he wanted a quick, clean divorce. Through Marcus, he offered me the house and a small portion of his pension in exchange for his freedom and most of his retirement accounts. He was so eager to finalize everything and move on with Amber that he didn't question the arrangement or ask for an updated appraisal. Marcus advised me to accept immediately before Robert had second thoughts. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked during our final meeting before the divorce was finalized. You're taking on a property that needs extensive work and you're giving up guaranteed income from his retirement accounts. I'm sure, I said. The house is worth more than money to me. But that wasn't entirely true. The house was worth money, a lot of it potentially, and I had a plan. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Tuesday in May. Robert signed the papers without reading them carefully, eager to return to Amber and his new life. I walked out of that lawyer's office as a divorced woman at 72 years old, single for the first time since I was 25. If you think you know where this story is going, here's where I need you to hit that subscribe button, because what happened next surprised everyone, including me. This isn't just about a woman getting revenge, it's about a woman reclaiming her life. That evening, I stood in my living room now, and made a decision that would change everything. I pulled out a notebook and wrote at the top, House Renovation Plan. I had $47,000 in a savings account from my teaching pension that I had kept separate from our joint accounts. It wasn't enough to renovate the entire house, but it was enough to start. The next morning, I called every contractor in the Burlington area until I found one willing to work with my budget and timeline. His name was Luis Martinez, a renovation specialist in his 50s who had built a reputation for transforming historic homes. He walked through my house the following Saturday, taking notes and occasionally whistling at what he found. Mrs. Patterson, this house is a gem, he said in my kitchen, sketching rough plans on graph paper. The good news is the foundation, framing, and roof are all solid. The bad news is everything else needs work. Electrical, plumbing, kitchen, bathrooms, windows, insulation. We're looking at a complete renovation to bring it up to modern standards. How much are we talking? Luis did some quick calculations. Done right, preserving the historic details while modernizing everything else, you're looking at $200,000 to $250,000 minimum. My heart sank. I have $47,000. Then we get creative, Luis replied. We prioritize the work that adds the most value. We do some of the labor ourselves where we can. We use reclaimed materials for the historic elements and cost-effective modern materials for the updated parts, and we phase it in sections. Why would you want to take on a project like this? Luis smiled. Because I love these old houses, and I can tell you do too. Plus, my wife heard about what happened with your husband from her book club. She told me if I didn't help you, I'd be sleeping on the couch for a month. I actually laughed for the first time in weeks. We started with the kitchen and main bathroom, spaces that would make the biggest impact on resale value. Luis brought in his crew, and my quiet house suddenly filled with the sounds of demolition, power tools, and Spanish radio stations. I threw myself into the project, helping where I could, and learning about tile work, cabinet installation, and grout colors. My children called regularly, worried about me taking on such a massive project at my age. Sarah kept suggesting I just sell the house as is and move into something smaller and more manageable. But they didn't understand. This wasn't about the house. This was about proving I was still capable of building something beautiful. Through Patricia, I heard occasional news about Robert and Amber. They had gone to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. Amber had posted photos of them doing yoga on the beach at sunrise. Robert had shaved his beard and started wearing hemp necklaces. They attended sound bath meditation sessions and talked about conscious uncoupling from societal expectations. He looks ridiculous, Patricia told me over coffee one morning, showing me Amber's Instagram feed. He's trying so hard to be young that he just looks desperate. I glanced at the photos. Robert in linen pants and a tank top, his silver chest hair visible, posing next to Amber in her yoga gear, and felt nothing. Not anger, not jealousy, not even satisfaction. I was too busy choosing backsplash tiles for my new kitchen. The renovation took 7 months. 7 months of dust, decisions, and discoveries. We found original stained glass windows hidden behind drywall in the dining room. We uncovered hand-carved crown molding that had been painted over a dozen times. Beneath the terrible carpet in the master bedroom, we discovered pristine hardwood floors with an inlay pattern. This house is telling you its story, Luis said as we carefully restored the dining room's original built-in china cabinet. You just had to listen. I worked alongside the crew most days, learning skills I had never imagined at my age. I learned to grout tile, to strip and refinish wood, to install drawer pulls. My hands developed calluses, and my arms grew stronger. I began waking up excited about what we had accomplished that day instead of dreading the empty house. The kitchen transformed first. We kept the original footprint but updated everything. White shaker cabinets, quartz countertops that looked like marble, a farmhouse sink, and new appliances. The old avocado bathroom became a spa-like retreat with subway tiles, a walk-in shower, and heated floors. Luis's wife, Maria, started stopping by with lunch for the crew, and soon she was bringing color swatches and decoration ideas. She had an eye for design that I lacked, and together we chose paint colors that made each room feel both historic and fresh. "You're blooming," Maria told me one afternoon as we debated between two shades of blue for the master bedroom. "I can see it happening." She was right. Something was happening to me that had nothing to do with the house and everything to do with it. I was remembering who I had been before I became someone's wife, someone's mother. I was recalling the 25-year-old teacher who loved learning new things and had opinions and dreams that weren't tied to anyone else's approval. By month 6, the house was nearly unrecognizable. The kitchen gleamed, the bathroom sparkled. We had refinished all the original hardwood floors, repaired the plaster walls, and installed new energy-efficient windows that looked like the originals. The exterior got a fresh coat of historically accurate paint, a beautiful sage green with cream trim that made the house look like something from a magazine. I hired a professional photographer to document the transformation. Walking through with him as he took photos, I felt overwhelming pride. This house had been a symbol of everything Robert and I had put off, everything we had meant to do someday. Now it was complete, and I had done it without him. "Mrs. Patterson," the photographer said as he packed up his equipment, "I've shot a lot of renovations, but this one is special. You can feel the love in every detail." That evening, I sat on my new back porch, another addition Luis had suggested, with a glass of wine, watching the sunset. My phone rang. It was Jennifer. "Mom, I found something interesting," she said without preamble. "I was researching property values in your area for a client, and houses like yours, fully renovated, they're selling for over $1 million. Some are going for 1.2 million or more." "I know," I said calmly. There was a pause. "You know, Mom, when are you planning to sell it?" "I'm putting it on the market next week." The real estate agent I hired was a sharp woman in her 40s named Rebecca, who specialized in high-end historic properties. She walked through my house with her assistant, taking notes and photographs, occasionally pausing to admire a detail. "Mrs. Patterson, this is extraordinary work," she said in the living room, running her hand along the restored crown molding. "The way you've preserved the historic character while modernizing everything. It's exactly what buyers are looking for right now." "What do you think it will sell for?" Rebecca consulted her tablet, comparing recent sales in the area. "Based on current market conditions and the quality of your renovation, I'd recommend listing it at $1.5 million. I think we'll get multiple offers, possibly above asking." I had paid $75,000 for this house 36 years ago. I had invested $47,000 of my own money and 7 months of my life into its renovation, and now it was worth over $1 million. "Let's do it," I said. The listing went live on a Thursday morning. By Friday afternoon, Rebecca had scheduled 8 showings for the weekend. By Sunday evening, we had 5 offers, 3 of them above asking price. The highest was $1.25 million from a couple relocating from Boston who said they had fallen in love the moment they walked through the door. "It feels like a home," the wife had told me during their showing, tears in her eyes. "Like it's been loved." "It has been," I told her. We accepted their offer. The closing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. That's when Robert called me for the first time since the divorce. "Claire, I heard you're selling the house," he said, his voice tight. "We need to talk." "The house is mine, Robert. Legally, you signed away all rights to it." "I didn't know you were going to renovate and sell it for a fortune." His voice rose. "That's not fair, Claire. That was our house. We should split the profit. I actually laughed. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You left me for a woman younger than our children. You told me I was holding you back. You couldn't wait to sign away the house because you thought it was worthless. I made a mistake, he said. For the first time, I heard desperation in his voice. Not about us, but about the house. I should have insisted on an appraisal. My lawyer says I might have grounds to reopen the property settlement. Your lawyer is wrong, I said calmly. We had a legal agreement that you signed. The house was appraised at the time of divorce, and you accepted it. What I choose to do with my property afterward is none of your business. Claire, please be reasonable. Amber and I are having some financial difficulties. She had to close her yoga studio, and I'm spending through my retirement faster than I expected. If you could just... No, I said simply. No. Just like that, after 47 years of marriage, you won't even consider it? After 47 years of marriage, you told me I was holding you back, I interrupted. You left me for someone who made you feel young and alive. So go be young and alive, Robert. But don't come to me begging for money when reality catches up with your fantasy. There was a long silence. When Robert spoke again, his voice had changed. Harder, uglier. You've turned bitter, Claire. This isn't the woman I married. You're right, I said. The woman you married would have felt guilty. She would have wondered if she owed you something. She would have probably given you half the profit just to keep the peace. I paused, letting that sink in. But that woman doesn't exist anymore. You made sure of that when you walked out. I hung up before he could respond. 2 weeks later, Patricia came over with gossip she was bursting to share. Robert and Amber had broken up. Apparently, when Robert's money started running out, Amber had begun finding him less aligned with her energy. She had met someone new at a meditation retreat, a divorced tech entrepreneur in his 50s with a house in Sedona. Robert's been calling around asking friends if he can stay with them, Patricia said, clearly enjoying the drama. He told everyone he made a terrible mistake and wants to reconcile with you. That's not going to happen, I said. Good. Patricia raised her coffee mug in a toast. You deserve so much better. The house closing happened on a beautiful October morning. I signed the papers in Rebecca's office, watching my bank account grow by $1.25 million. After paying off the remainder of the renovation costs, Luis's final bill, and various fees, I walked away with just over $1.1 million in profit. That evening, Sarah, Michael, and Jennifer all video called me together, their faces arranged in a grid on my laptop screen. Mom, we're so proud of you, Sarah said, wiping tears from her eyes. When Dad left, we were so worried about you. I was worried about me too, I admitted. But I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. What are you going to do with the money? Michael asked. Invest it? Travel? Both, I said. I'm buying a small condo in Burlington, something modern that I won't have to maintain. I'm setting aside money for retirement, and then I'm booking a trip to Italy, the trip your father and I never took. Alone? Jennifer asked carefully. No, I said, smiling. Maria, Luis's wife, has become a good friend. She's always wanted to see Tuscany, and her daughter just agreed to watch her grandkids for 3 weeks. We're going together this spring. 2 days before I moved out of the Victorian, Robert showed up at my door. He looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. His hemp necklaces were gone. He was wearing his old construction jacket. Can we talk? He asked. Please, Claire, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let him in. We sat in my empty living room on folding chairs, the only furniture left in the house. Sunlight streamed through the new windows, illuminating dust motes in the air. Robert looked around at the transformed space, and I watched the realization hit him, what this house had become, what he had given up. I made a terrible mistake, he said finally. Not just with the house, with everything, with us. Yes, you did. He winced at my directness. I was stupid, Claire. I was scared of getting old, of becoming invisible. When Amber paid attention to me, it felt like being alive again. But it wasn't real. None of it was real. And you want me to feel sorry for you? I asked. No. I want you to forgive me. He leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. I want another chance. We can start over. You made all this money from the house. We could buy something together somewhere warm. Florida, maybe. We could still have good years ahead of us. I looked at this man I had spent 47 years with and felt nothing but pity. Robert, do you know what I realized while I was renovating this house? I realized I had spent decades waiting for you to be ready. Ready to renovate, ready to travel, ready to really live our lives. And when you finally got ready, it was for someone else. I'm ready now for us, but I'm not ready for you anymore. I stood up. I'm ready for me. For the first time in my adult life, I'm putting myself first. And that doesn't include a man who threw away our marriage because he was too cowardly to face growing old with dignity. Please, Claire, I still love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of security. You love having someone to take care of you now that your yoga instructor moved on. But you don't love me, not the way I deserve to be loved. I walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Robert. He stood slowly, defeated. At the door, he turned back one more time. Will you at least think about it? No, I said gently. I won't. I watched him walk to his car, not the new sports car he had bought with Amber, but his old pickup truck, and drive away. Then I closed the door on that chapter of my life. 3 months later, I'm writing this from my new condo in Burlington. It's modern, efficient, and completely mine. My children visit regularly now that I have guest rooms for them. Maria and I are planning our Italy trip for April. We're going to drink wine in Tuscany, see the art in Florence, and eat our way through Rome. I turned 73 last week. I'm single, financially secure, and happier than I've been in decades. Robert wanted to feel alive. He should have looked next to him. I was there all along, just waiting for permission to bloom. In the end, I gave that permission to myself. Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video with love and respect.